logo. We love it. Norman, videographer behind the camera. Lannis is not here.
Hi, boys and girls.
And tonight we're going to. About 2 weeks ago, I was part of a show called Music and Madness at the Fez, Mathematic Night on Monday. And Norman wasn't able to be there to shoot that, but luckily we have a tape of a rehearsal I did here at one of the back rooms of Club Weimar, and we're going to show that to you tonight. So, Norman, let's roll the tape.
Okay, Tool.
Norm, thanks for. I'm glad we're doing this rehearsal tape, because I'm going to use it. You know, this is next week, and it's not a. It's a very It's a sort of an involved subject. Music and madness. As a matter of fact, it's sort of arbitrary. Why not music? I mean, madness and lawyers, or madness and graphic arts. And then what is madness? And what is music? Oh, it's so involved. Anyway, this is what I prepared, and as you know, I haven't memorized it because what if it's lousy and I'm stuck with it. Anyway, if this is the world, this is a world premiere. And folks, you all will remember that the last Congress, well, we hoped it was the last Congress, but it was the latest, passed a new law outlawing insanity in music. The law was known as the algorithm law. It had Tippergore's help, and it had one unusual feature. It also introduced the ancient admirable principle of ex post facto, which meant we also had to search out and prosecute the criminal music and the musical activity of the past. And that's what we're going to do tonight. Dun, 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 dun. Today's assignment, implicate music with madness. Okay, bring in the usual suspects. Plato, Adolf Hitler and the Skinheads, Howard Stern, Friedrich Nietzsche, Frank Zappa, Dr. Demento, and the Fugs. All right, boys, line up. Okay, Adolf, you first. What's your alibi? We don't want no degenerate kike nigger yas here. Right, boys? That's my sugar, that music, verdammte Juden. And that Kunst. Kunst. I always have trouble with that word. And then the Skinheads. Yeah, you fucking Jew Pan Alley. Berlin stole all his hits. Yeah, I actually think he stole quite a few of them. All right, next. Friedrich. Fried Nietzsche. What do you got to say for yourself? Well, without music, I would go crazy. Wait. I did go crazy with music. Oh, that Wagner. But listen, you know, Wagner's music ain't as bad as it sounds. Yeah, right. Okay, bring Zappa in. Yo, Frank, I see you're still smoking. Didn't you hear the latest? Cigarettes cause prostate cancer. Oh, well, live and learn. All right, Frank, what's your story? Oh, plastic people, oh, baby, now you're such a drag. A fine little girl, she waits for me. She's as plastic as she can be. She paints her face with plastic glue and rakes her hair with some shampoo. Plastic people, oh baby now, you're such... All right, that's enough of that crap, okay. All right, now let's see, I think we'll skip this and that and that and that and that and okay, Plato, you're next. Well, Plato, we subpoenaed Plato, but we were told he had died, yeah, sure. And rummaging through some old dusty files at the station house, I discovered an old report on the Socrates case by my much esteemed former colleague Seamus Schlepper Olaf Hashalom of the blessed memory, who was removed from the planet by a mislabeled capsule of South American arrow poison, which he accidentally removed from the evidence room, thinking it was a new type of yage. So here is the Seamus report, practically verbatim, and it's dated Augustus the 4th, 399 BC. Seamus wrote, "We drove in our new Ford chariot to the Academy University. Plato, we took and taped Plato to Prexy's deposition. Socrates had taught at the school in the old days on the streets of Athens, when it was still called a free university, but now the school was located in the Plaka, just across from the Acropolis and in rather elegant digs, and it was no longer free. The students, who all came from the Athenian upper crust, were housed in marble halls, each suite containing a newly fitted vomitorium and a spare bedroom sleeping 3 slaves. There were rumors in the neighbor of wild parties at the student union with disgusting Aloysian-type orgies involving wild Lebanese maenads and heavy Scythian hashish. It was at one of these so-called symposiums that Professor Crates was accused of corrupting several youths. Prexy Plato, it was rumored, was trying to cover up these incidents. Plate, as he was affectionately known, from 8 to play Plato, because he was inordinately fond of sweet Judean bagelos, of which he daily consumed vast quantities. Ew, greasy. At one point, Professor Plato admitted to me off the record that, like Al Goldstein, he really preferred food to sex. Then he admitted that the incident may have happened, but that Professor Socrates was certainly not involved. He blamed the band of, quote, crazy itinerant hip-hop musicians from the village of Greenwichopolis, close quote, for the regrettable affair. And we got Plato on tape as follows. A plate. I thought you were going to say, and with truth, but that reminds me of what I was about to ask. I said that, did we not agree that love is a sort of madness? Yeah. And that there are 2 kinds of madness, one resulting from human ailments, the other from a divine disturbance of our conventions of conduct. Yeah. And in the divine kind, we distinguish 4 types, ascribing them to 4 gods. The inspiration of the prophet to Apollo, that of the mystic to Dionysus, that of the poet to the muses, and a 4th type, which we declare to be the highest, the madness of the lover to Aphrodite and Eros. Yeah. Now, this continued, Officer McGillis, that's actually his name, I swear to God, continued with the interrogation. Of what laws are you thinking of in particular? No, he said, the laws of music. We must go to the laws of music as it was in those days. This is Plato now. Our music was then divided into several kinds and patterns. One kind of song, which went by the name of a hymn, not a her, consisted of prayers to the gods. There was a second and contrasting kind, which might well have been called a lament. Paeans, that's not peons, paeans, were a 3rd kind, and there was a 4th, the dithyramb as it was called, dealing, if I am not mistaken, with the birth of Dionysius. The actual word nome was used. Now this is important. Now these and other types were definitely fixed, and it was not permissible to misuse one kind of melody for another. The competence to take cognizance of these rules, to pass verdicts in accord with them, and in case of need to penalize their infraction was not left, as it is today, to the catcalls and discordant outcries of a crowd, nor yet to the clapping of applauders. The educated made it their rule to hear the performance through in silence. And for the boys, their attendants, and the rabble at large, there was the discipline of the official's rod to enforce order. Thus the bulk of the populace was content to submit to this strict control in such matters, without venturing to pronounce judgment by its clamors. Much, perhaps, like this, the unruly mad crowd of Club Weimar, where we're rehearsing. Afterward, in course of time, an unmusical license set in with the appearance of poets who were men of native genius, but don't you shit on my shoulder. I mean, you can sit on my shoulder, but don't shit on my shoulder. No, but ignorant of what is right and legitimate in the realm of the muses. Possessed by a frantic and unhallowed lust for pleasure, they contaminated laments with hymns and paeans with dithyrambs, actually imitated the strains of the flute on the harp, and created a universal confusion of forms. Thus, their folly led them unintentionally to slander their profession by the assumption that in music there is no such thing as a right and a wrong. A right standard of judgment being the pleasure given to the hearer, be he high or low. What an elitist prick this guy was. He, of course, was not low. He was a high prick. By compositions of such a kind and discourse to the same effect, they naturally inspired the multitude with contempt of musical law and a conceit of their own competence as judges. Thus, our once silent audiences have found a voice in the persuasion that they understand what is good and bad in art. The old sovereignty of the best in that sphere has given way to an evil sovereignty of the audience. I think I hear murmurs from the audience. What the fuck? Have you, are you taking some of the, we want people to see that Weimar was also another one of these degenerate periods where people thought they could do what they liked. If the consequence had been even a democracy, no great harm would have been done, so long as the democracy was confined to art and composed of free men, yeah. But as things are with us, music has given occasion to a general conceit of universal knowledge and contempt for law. And liberty has followed in their train, a fucking liberty. Fear was cast out by confidence in supposed knowledge, and the loss of it gave birth to impudence. 4. To be unconcerned for the judgment of one's betters. How can you be smart enough to know your betters? If you're smart enough to know your betters, you're pretty smart. So then maybe you're one of the betters. For to be unconcerned for the judgment of one's betters in the assurance which comes of a reckless excess of liberty is nothing in the world but reprehensible impudence. Let me repeat that. For to be unconcerned for the judgment of one's betters in the assurance by which comes of a reckless excess of liberty is nothing in the world but reprehensible impudence. You hear that? Look. This is an impudent bird. Let's see you sing. Oh, look. Oh, here, you want the paper clip? Here, let's see you sing with that in your mouth. All right. Listen to your betters now. And now we try to get. Professor Socrates said there's no such thing as Socratian madness, only the four classes. Therefore, ipso facto and dies irae, there was no prima facie case against Professor Socrates that these false accusations had distinct political overtones and were probably directly linkable to the coming elections for council persons. This allegation was strongly denied by Senator D'Amato. At that point, a startling wire came in from the German business network, the Fugger North German network. Flash: Professor Socrates was found dead today at his country retreat 12 leagues south of Pergamon. Unable or unwilling to put up bail money of 12,000 drachmas, Sox as he was known, to his ass-kissing group of disciples, left a cryptic note. Well, he was called Socks because he didn't wear socks, but actually he never wore shoes. Einstein never would. He left a cryptic note stating he was innocent, but, quote, "The law is the law." What a schmuck. The medium of death was hemlock. His friends may take a modicum of comfort, however, from the fact that government herbalists have pronounced the hemlock organic. Professor Socrates, Associate Dean of Academe University, dead by his own mouth at age 70. And now back to Academe. After hearing the dispatch and after poor Dr. Plato had finished tearing his hair out, we begged his pardon and we continued to tape Plato as follows. Could you wrap up, perhaps? This is really running a bit much. President Plato then stated, in the words of the immortal Damon, "When the mode of the music changes, the walls of the city shake." Well, we all know that. And we certainly don't want our walls to be shaking now with all these shysters like Solon and Draken around in the current budget crisis, with all these shysters around looking for any excuse to sue, and with the current necessity to build up our defenses again against Saddam Husseinos and the Hittites, and the severe cuts we need to take in education and welfare. I say first, let's kill all the musicians first. Let's kill all the musicians and kill them all. Let God sort them out. That's too filthy to repeat on public access. Now, 25 years later, dun 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 dun. The Fugs have reopened the case of the crazy musicians, and in the 1960s I wrote this song, and I think I'm going to sing it for you if there's time. How much time do we have?
Plenty of time.
We have plenty of time?
11 minutes.
11?
Yep.
It goes when the mode of the music changes. When the mode of the music changes. When the mode of the music is changed. When the mode of the music changes, the walls of the city shake. He who does not dance, neither shall he eat. He who does not prance, neither shall he drink. He who won't romance, neither can he think. He who does not dance, neither shall he eat. You can have the men who make the laws. You can have the men who make the laws. You can keep the men who make the laws. Give me the music makers when beauty box I heal. And so on. Beware a man who is not moved by sound. Beware a man who is not moved by sound. He'll drag you to the ground. He'll drag you to the ground. Come dance with me. Come dance with me in Giuliani's land. Come dance with me. We'll beat that hoary band. Music has alarms to wild the civil breast. When beauty barks I heal. Music has alarms to wild the civil breast. It does not bring me rest. Does not bring me rest. But in the bitter end, this wildness brings me rest. I sleep in the eye of the storm, and in the startling end, blue whiteness makes me calm. I dream in the eye of the wind. In the time that's left, I want to get back to what being mad and what music is actually, because this is a very kind of arbitrary. One more final word about Plato, though. And in his last work, The Laws, 300 pages more long, he goes from the Republic, which was an imaginary ideal state, so-called, to reality, and he has different advice about how to govern. First, he describes what he thought were the three greatest drawbacks to good community living. One was atheism. The second was what he called immorality. I don't quite know what that was. I didn't read all 300 pages. But I guess he meant adultery. He believed in monogamy. Lying in court, networking, and so on. Not working, I mean, not networking. And corrupting youth, especially. And three, trying to bribe a god with expensive, fancy sacrifices. That was really getting you in trouble on. So he proposed how to handle this. For the first offense, he wanted 5 years imprisonment in solitary confinement. For his second offense, death. So this is the great Plato, a great humanist, and I looked through those 300 pages in a scattered way. He often seems to like to recommend death for a lot of things he doesn't like. And I'm reminded of who was the famous Roman philosopher emperor? He's always quoted, come on, guys.
Herodotus?
Who?
Herodotus?
No, he was a Greek historian.
No. I guess they got that part of the world right.
His meditations are always quoted. They're very gentle and beautiful.
Oh, yeah, the meditations.
Aurelius, Marcus Aurelius. And this is like a sign here's this great noble Roman poet emperor. He was the same emperor. Rome was on hard times then. There was a lot of trouble in the city and the empire. So he decided to initiate. He was the one who initiated, while he was meditating, he got this great idea. We'll throw the Christians to the lions. He was the one who started to sacrifice Christians in the public spectacles of bread and circuses. So now to get back to music and some observations that I picked up in my research. This is my idea, but what's the difference between speech and music? I think there's a continuum. If you had speech is bad music. It's uninteresting music, but it's still the kind of music. Now, music is exalted speech, and like some languages are actually more musical than others, like Italian. Here's Theodore Hook said this: the greater the fool, the better the dancer. And one of my favorite radio comedians, Joe Penner, he said, he used to say, "You can't fool me, I'm too ignorant." And Bertrand Russell said this: the average man's opinions are much less foolish than they be if he thought for himself. And why am I talking about fools? Because foolishness and madness are on a continuum. And madness, according to, at one time, 100 million Europeans, including a lot of Germans, Hitler was a genius. According to the rest of the world, he was a madman. Song is the licensed medium for bawling in public. Things too silly or sacred to be uttered in ordinary speech. In French, as a fact, the word fou means fool and a mad person. Here's an Irish proverb. God help the fool, said the idiot. R.D. Lang said, insanity is a perfectly rational adjustment to the insane world. Ambrose Bierce. Mad, in its Devil's Dictionary. Mad, adjective. Affected with a high degree of intellectual independence. Not conforming to standards of thought, speech, and action, derived by the conformance from the study of themselves, at odds with the majority, in short, unusual. Rabelais said, if you would wish to avoid seeing a fool, you must first break your mirror. Voltaire. Men will always be mad, and those who think they can cure them are the maddest of all. Joseph Addison said, nothing is capable of being well set to music that is not nonsense. Actually, all music had words to it, words, until a few centuries ago. There was no such thing as pure music. And in the Greeks have 7 muses or 3 muses, according to some, and there's no special muse for music, because all the muses dance and speech, elevated speech, all had music with it. Rossini said, give me a laundry list. I can set it to music. And someone said of Berlioz, he says nothing in his music, but he says it magnificently. Santayama, the best human intelligence is still decidedly barbarous. It fights in heavy armor, keeps a fool in court. Nietzsche said madness is rare in individuals, but in groups, parties, nations, it is the rule. And Nietzsche was a great admirer of Wagner until Wagner became an anti-Semite. Then they had a parting of the ways. Who does not know how imperceptibly near is madness to the lusty flight of a free mind? People who go mad and artists are people with high energy levels, and they don't sort of accept everything, and they don't take that much shit from the world, so they get into trouble. And as we wind up, Carlyle said, 4,000 people cross London Bridge every day, mostly fools. So stay away from that bridge. And R.L. said, give me the young man who has brains enough to make a fool of himself. Do we have that? Make an ass of yourself?
Got it.
We got it. And make an ass of yourself. It's one of the few free pleasures left. So we'll see you next week at Revolting, and it's better a fool's paradise than no paradise at all.
That's the spirit.